line to her neck. It's very special. Why? Your grandmother gave it to you, Jack asked, struggling with the clasp while trying not to choke. No, it used to have a beautiful cameo hanging from it, Jana said, her voice dropping to a sad whisper. But I hawked it. About 3 months ago. We needed rent money. Jack, remember, the room went quiet. The struggle to survive in Santa Monica was the silent fourth roommate in their apartment. Jack felt a sudden, sharp pang of guilt. Here he was, the man of the house, and his roommate was hawking family heirlooms to keep the lights on. He finally managed to unhook his tie, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He wanted to do something for Jana, something that didn't involve a half-priced cake. Speaking of which, Chrissy pulled him aside as Jana returned to the kitchen. Jack, she hissed, pointing at the box. Who is Jimmy? Jack looked down. Through the cellophane window of the box, in bright, festive blue icing, were the words, "Happy birthday, Jimmy." I don't know, Jack admitted, rubbing his neck. Some guy who didn't pick up his cake at the bakery. That's why I got it at half price. If you can't give Jana a Jimmy cake, she might notice. She's a girl, Jack. She'll definitely notice. Chrissy cried. Chrissy, it's easily fixed, Jack said with the false confidence of a man who had failed many home economics classes. I'll just scrape off the MMY so it reads happy birthday, J. It's informal. It's hip. It's less than $3. Chapter 3, The Proposal. The afternoon took a turn toward the surreal when a heavy, rhythmic thumping sounded at the door. It was Stanley Roper, and he looked like a man on a mission. Jack, could I see you for a minute? Stanley asked, ignoring the girls and stepping into the living room as if he owned the place, which, technically, he did. Sure, Mr. Roper, Jack said, wiping a smudge of blue icing off his thumb. Stanley looked around suspiciously, leaning in close to Jack. Do you enjoy being here, Jack? In this apartment? Yeah, it's fine, Jack replied, wondering if the rent was going up again. Good. You don't mind if I'm a little nosy, do you? I was wondering, did you ever take out a girl before? Jack froze. He had to keep up the charade. Before what? I mean, it's not against the rules for you fellas, is it, to go out with a girl? You know, for a ball game or a burger? Jack realized Roper was trying to be tolerant in his own twisted way. Oh, well, I could do that, I guess. I'm very versatile. Terrific. Stanley beamed, slapping Jack on the shoulder. Because I wouldn't want you to do anything that would go against your religion. See, we have this niece visiting us, and Mrs. Roper won't stop nagging me about her having a California experience. I want you to take her out tonight. Jack shook his head, his heart sinking. Mr. Roper, I'd be happy to, really, but I can't. It's Jeanette's birthday. We have a J cake, a dinner. I can't bail on her. Stanley's face fell. He looked genuinely desperate. Could you put off the birthday till tomorrow? What's one day? I'm sorry. No, Jack said firmly. Stanley sighed and turned to leave But then he paused. Wait a minute. I thought you might want to meet her anyway. Karen, come in here. A young woman stepped through the door, and the air in the room seemed to change. She was stunning. She had long, raven dark hair, eyes that sparkled with New York wit, and a smile that made Jack's brain short-circuit. The Roper-faced Jack had been dreading the one involving a prominent chin and a permanent scowl was nowhere to be found. Jack turned back to Stanley, his eyes wide. Stanley leaned in even closer, pulling a crisp $50 bill from his pocket. $50, Jack, for you. I'll even lend you the car. Just get her out of the house so I can have some peace. Please. Jack looked at the $50. He thought about the rent. He thought about Jeanette's cameo. He looked at Karen. Oh, yes, Jack said, his voice jumping an octave. Karen, how would you like me to show you the town? Chapter 4, Freeway Fever. The night was supposed to be a glamorous tour of the Los Angeles nightlife, but the Roper family car had other plans. They were currently pulled over on the shoulder of the 405, a thick plume of white steam billowing from the hood like a signal fire. I think your uncle's car is a bit of a traditionalist, Jack said, wiping a streak of black grease across his forehead as he peered into the engine. It hates the modern world. Karen leaned against the fender, looking perfectly composed despite the heat. Uncle Stanley hasn't changed the oil since the Nixon administration. He thinks maintenance is a scam designed by the weirdos in the city. Jack looked at her. She wasn't the delicate flower Stanley had described. She was sharp, observant, and as she stepped closer decidedly unnumlike. You know, Jack, Karen said, her voice dropping to a sultry tone that made his knees weak. You're not at all what my uncle said you were. Jack gulped, trying to focus on the radiator cap. Oh, what did he say? That I was a great cook, a master of sophals. He said you were safe, like an armored truck. She ran along, cool finger down his arm. You don't look like an armored truck to me, Jack Tripper. You look like a man who knows his way around a radiator, and maybe more. Jack felt the walls of his lie closing in. If he responded to Karen, Stanley would evict him. If he didn't, he was failing as a human being. It was the ultimate Tripper dilemma. Well, Jack stammered, every man's entitled to a night off, even an armored truck. Not on my time, Karen whispered, leaning in. By the time they hobbled back to the apartment, the radiator fixed with a bit of wire and a lot of luck, the tension was unbearable. Karen invited him in for a fast beer. Jack, ever the optimist, followed her in, only to have the door fly open 5 minutes later. Stanley Roper stood there in his bathrobe, his eyes bulging like a goldfish. Jack! Stanley roared. Jack jumped 3 feet in the air, nearly knocking over the beer. Mr. Roper, I can explain. It's the radiator, the heat. You don't have to explain anything, Stanley shouted, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. I saw what you were doing. You were acting. Normal. In my house,